Okay, now we're official. Okay, so thank you again for coming and learning a little bit more about volunteering with Bird Conservancy. So tonight we are just going to go over some of the different opportunities that we have on the education team specifically. So a little bit of our agenda. We already did our introductions, got to know each other a little bit, go over our volunteer opportunities, kind of what those look like, when you can expect to be able to do those, the skills that you might need, that kind of thing. Meredith is going to go over Volgistics, which is our volunteer platform. And then we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. And then most importantly, going over the next steps. If one of these or multiple of these options sound intriguing and a good fit for you, what you can do next to make sure we get you started. So we already did that, introductions. This is one of my favorite pictures of you, Meredith, with the kestrel and those kiddos. I have a lot of favorite pictures of you, to be fair, but it's a good one. So a little bit about Bird Conservancy as an organization. We're a conservation nonprofit, and our mission is to conserve birds and their habitats. Our headquarters are in Brighton, Colorado at Bar Lake State Park. We also have a satellite office in Fort Collins. That's where most of our science and stewardship team is based out of. And then we do have two educators, a very small portion of our education team out in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. And so what is kind of unique about Bird Conservancy is the way that we approach conservation. So we do that kind of through this three-pronged approach. So we have our science team, and of course, they're the ones doing the boots on the ground research, publishing papers, crunching the data, doing all of those things. We have our stewardship team, and mostly they're working with private landowners like farmers and ranchers. They're helping them to secure federal dollars and grant funding, whatever the case may be, to help implement conservation practices on their land so that not only it's good for the birds and the land, but also benefits their businesses as farmers and ranchers as well. And then there's us, the education team, where, like I said, most of us are stationed here in Brighton, in the Denver area, and then we do have two that are out in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. So here's our environmental learning center, or lovingly called the Old Stone House. This is where most of our programming takes place. It's in Brighton on Bar Lake State Park property. So we have a really nice partnership with them. They help us out with programs. We get to partner with them. And I think they charge us a dollar or a penny, some ridiculously small amount of rent per year. So our offices are in the Old Stone House. And it indeed is that. It was built in the late 1890s by a Swiss family that moved here. And it kind of, it was lived in by them. It changed hands a few times. It fell into disrepair and was just uninhabited for a while. And then I think in 2000, do you know for sure, Meredith? In 2000 is, I think, when we made it our offices there.
Something that's about 2000, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So that's where most of our programming takes place. The inside really is mostly offices. In the basement part that you can see that's underneath the deck, we do have a classroom in there. It's pretty small. We mostly just use that for camps during the summer, or if it's really cold or really cruddy weather, we can bring small groups of students in there at the same time. But for the vast majority, our field trips that take place are all outside, and we have a beautiful space for that too. So as far as the education team goes, kind of our whole purpose is to inspire connection with nature through hands-on experiential environmental education. And we use birds as the hook, right? They're easy for people to fall in love with. They're everywhere, no matter if you're in, downtown Denver or far away in the mountains, no matter what continent you're on, you can find a bird somewhere. And so it's easy to kind of use that as a connector. And it's our hope that as we, inspire people and connect people with birds and nature, that's going to lead to better conservation mindedness and really positive conservation and environmental actions. So that's our hope. The other members of our education team, we have Sherry, who's our education director. Becky is our camp manager. Colin is our banding manager. We have Nellie, who's our AmeriCorps service member. She just started with us in January, and she'll be with us through the end of October. We have a brand new person, a bilingual environmental educator. Sitlali is actually starting on Monday. And then Delaney and Laura are the two that we have in Nebraska. And so again, just kind of going back to the purpose of environmental education and our team as a whole, we know that, especially these days as we become more urbanized and our schedules are just, we're crazy busy, even as kiddos. Kids don't have the opportunity to just go outside and play and get dirty and have fun, like I imagine most of us did. And I know, at least for me, and the research supports it, that's when these connections with nature start. And that's when that seed is planted and it can grow throughout our lives. So that's really just what we're trying to do, is give kiddos mostly this safe space, and for us to act as role models to model that passion for the environment. And then, like I said, hopefully that sets them on a path to become conservation-minded adults, whether that's, they go into a conservation career, or they're voting in certain ways that support the environment, donating money, or actions, recycling, those kinds of things. And a lot of times when people come to volunteer for us, they get a little nervous because they might think, gosh, like, I'm not really that good of a birder, or I don't really know that much about, about the environment or environmental concepts. And that's okay. We don't need anyone to be an expert. We just need people that are passionate, to share that passion, because I think it's actually really impactful for a kiddo when they ask you a question and you say, I don't know, like, let's find out together. So don't ever be afraid that, or nervous that you don't have all the answers, because that's not the point. Facilitating these positive experiences is really the point. So as far as volunteer opportunities within our education team, we have lots of different ways that you can join us. We have our field trips. We have community programs, family and homeschool programs, tabling events, and then some yard work. And we're going to go through those in a bit more detail. I did want to say too, if at any point while I'm speaking, if anyone has a question, or something that they want to add, please feel free to unmute or go ahead and use the chat box. Either one is fine. Okay, so our bread and butter really are our school field trips. We facilitate field trips for any age group, but by and large, the most common age group we have is 1st through 3rd grade. These happen on the weekdays. They're almost always in the morning. I have 9 to 12:30 on here these days. It seems like schools can't get to our location until about 10. So we run, 2 to 3 hour field trips. Volunteers and staff get there at least half hour before, so we can just kind of meet, get a game plan going, get everything set up. And then it takes about a half hour to kind of, debrief from the program and put things away and that. So it's kind of the time commitment we're looking at. Field trips, they do happen year round, although again, our by and large, our busiest seasons are starting right now, March through May. And then August through October, we only do banding field trips. So we get pretty busy then too. We are starting to get a lot of requests for summer as well. And I know most of you on this call at least are pretty busy during the weekdays. So this may not be where your opportunity is, but just so you know, it does exist. And so what it looks like is there will always be at least one Bird Conservancy staff person, probably more than one. And we split the kiddos into groups of 15. And so as a volunteer, you would be the leader of one of those groups. You won't be totally alone though, because we require there to be at least one teacher or 2 parent chaperones per group. So you will not be alone with the kiddos, you will have help. And then as far as training with this goes, we provide lesson plans. We have another training next week that delves a little more deeply into those lesson plans and just, teaching methods, group management, that kind of thing. And then we have you do 2 shadows, which is where you just tag along with a Bird Conservancy staff member during a field trip. And then we'll do a reverse shadow, which is where you kind of take the reins, but we're there to jump in for support if needed. And then after that, if you feel comfortable to kind of fly on your own, then you are able to be a group leader. And that training method kind of goes for all of our programs, not necessarily just field trips, but those kind of 2 shadows, 1 reverse shadow, and then you're ready to go as long as you feel comfortable. So next we have our community programs, and there are a few different programs within this realm. So these tend to be more adult or family focused. We have our bird walks, and right now we're doing them once a month. They are on a Saturday. Our Birding for All program is new this year. It's open to anyone, but it's especially geared towards working with folks with disabilities. And right now we have a really great partnership with North Metro, and they are a day program for adults with disabilities. So they've been bringing out, anywhere from 5 to 10 folks each month. And generally we go on a bird walk. During the colder months, we might stay inside and do more crafts or something like that. It's still kind of in the works. We're still kind of trying to figure out what works best. But last year we got a grant and we were able to purchase quite a bit of adaptive equipment. So we have a monocular for folks that might be more comfortable just using one eye instead of using binoculars that, you need both eyes. We have an adapter that holds a tablet on a scope so that, it's able to project the picture on a tablet. It's much easier to see that way. What else do we have? We have an attachment that allows us to put binoculars on a scope stand. So that way, if folks are not able to hold on to binoculars for whatever reason, we can put it on that steady stand and that helps them. I think that's all we have right now, but we're hoping to get a few more things to continue that. And then we also have our Bird Tales program, which is where we go into memory care units. And so it's this multi-sensory program where I don't know if you've seen the little like Audubon plushy birds, and they sing like the real bird songs. So we use those and we go in once a month to these memory care facilities just to give those folks that extra connection with nature, because a lot of times, they're kind of cooped up. They're very cooped up. A lot of them are not able to even really go outside at all. In some of the facilities, we're able to go outside. They might have a porch or a patio. But bringing these little birds and just telling stories, letting them tell their stories and their memories kind of as they pop up, it's a really powerful experience. So those are some community programs. Generally, I mean, it could be any day, weekdays, weekends. Generally, they're about 9 to 11, and they happen year round. All of those bird walks, Birding for All, and Bird Tales happen once a month. We also have our family and homeschool programming. So this is kind of like our field trips, but on a much smaller scale. Generally, we set a max of 30 people, and that includes both kiddos and adults. And so these are families in the area or homeschool groups that come and learn with us. Again, this is once a month. They're almost always on Thursdays from 9 to 11. And we have a different theme each month. So sometimes we do waterfowl or learn all about raptors. January, we did our bald eagle extravaganza, or it might be nature art, some things like that. So this is a good way to kind of get a more kind of one-on-one, and it just feels a lot of a slower pace. The field trips can get a little bit frenzied sometimes just because if you have, 50 first graders, that's a lot of energy, which I love, but not everyone. It's not for everyone. So the family and homeschool are a way to still engage with that younger audience, but kind of at a slower pace. I didn't put it on here, but we also are going to be starting our Growing Naturally, which is our early childhood programming. And that's going to be on Mondays from 9 to noon. So again, I know I'm saying all of these weekday things, which you all maybe can't do, but just so you know, they're there. We have a lot of opportunity for tabling events. So these are things like when Bar Lake, has an event, we might come over and set up a table, or Earth Day is coming up. We have a couple of different organizations that we're going to have a table. So it looks a lot like this. We have our lovely little tablecloth. We'll have, different handouts that people can take. And most of the time, it's not set up like this in this picture, but most of the time we will have some sort of activity set up. So it could be, we will have like replica skulls and wings and tracks and things like that. So we talk about bird out adaptations. Or we have an activity that talks about bird ID. So just a little bit better way to get folks engaged and learn more about birding and how cool it is. Again, these are really variable. A lot of times they are on Saturdays though. So if you are a person who has a lot of weekend availability, this is for you. And again, same thing with the training. We're not just gonna, feed you to the wolves. We'll be with you there for the first couple of times until you feel comfortable to be on your own. A lot of times though, we do send at least 2 people. It's nice to have a buddy, especially when these kinds of things, they might be 4 or 5 hours long. So it's nice to have a buddy or even work in shifts. We also have native gardening. So prior, I cannot remember when, it's been a few years ago, Sherry, our education director, put just an immense amount of work into revamping our backyard. Prior to all that work, it was just sand. There was a lot of pieces of glass that we would find because of the history of the old stone house. There's just a lot of glass everywhere. And it was not great to have kids, running around on sand and finding a piece of glass. Not ideal. So Sherry did an immense amount of work. We got a lot of grant funding, and now it's a gorgeous, gorgeous space. There is grass. There's no more sand. There's a lovely path that goes around. And then we have 5 different demonstration gardens that represent different habitats. So there's like prairie and wetland and riparian forest, something else. But then we also have a sensory garden. So anyway, we have all of this beautiful space. And unfortunately, no groundskeeper. It's just us. So we could use a lot of help if that's your thing, especially in the spring and summer. So things like watering, weeding, mowing, planting, those kinds of things. We could use help with that too. So that is kind of an overview of the opportunities that are available. I want to talk about kind of what else you would get out of this too. So of course you get the warm fuzzy feelings of helping people to connect with nature and the things that you are passionate about. It's always really fun to see that spark in someone's eyes when they, an idea that you're talking about kind of clicks with them, or, you find a way that even though on the surface you might seem really different, you kind of find something that's common between the two of you in birds or nature. So it's always just a really soul-filling thing. But also you will get some cool gear, which you can see Colin, who's our banding manager, modeling for us here. So you will get a hat and a t-shirt and a name badge, which he doesn't have on here, but we have lots of different colors, that kind of thing. So whenever we are on program, we want to, be showcasing our brand and make sure people know who we are. So you don't always have to wear a hat. If you're not a hat person, that's okay. But as long as you have your t-shirt on, your name badge, that kind of thing. So that is the gear that you get. And now I'm going to turn it over to lovely Meredith. She's going to tell you about Volgistics, which is super fun.
You want to tell us what that bird was?
Oh, let's go back. What is it? Sharp-shinned?
No.
I don't know.
Anybody else want to take a wild guess? It's a raptor. Sarah's got that part. Long, thin, and look at that long tail, which he's just growing in. And you see the white at the base of the tail? And I know that Rachel knows what it is.
I was gonna guess Northern
Yeah.
Harrier.
Yes.
That makes sense.
She got that one on the bird hike she did with us. So yes, cool bird in the middle of molt. And took two of us to get it banded. Okay, and I want to add a couple of things to what Sarah said. First of all, in the fall, if we ever get to fall again, we moved from the Stone House area over to the main part of Bar Lake, which is where the banding station is. And one of the new assignments that came up that we started doing the last couple of years is having a host on Saturday and Sunday. So those of you who like weekends and are looking for something that might give you some time seeing birds in the hand and talking to kids and adults about banding, think about that. Okay. I want to tell you just a little bit about the boring stuff that you do before you get to be a volunteer. Am you going to move me forward, Sarah, or am I doing that? I don't know if I can. I don't know if you've got me in a category where I can do that. No. Okay, good. All right. This is the boring stuff. It's the paperwork. Some of you, let's see, of the three of you, two of you are, you're at the opposite ends. Two of you are fully onboarded and have gone through this completely. And Andy, you're newer and have not. So, and we're recording this for the people who aren't here. So I should talk about this. The volunteer application form, Andy, I don't think you've even done that. So I will get you the application either tomorrow or over the weekend, and you can fill it out and we start from there. There's a couple of documents that need to be signed and read and signed, and then return the signed pages to me. And then I put you in for a basic background check. They're checking whether your social security number really belongs to you, whether or not you have any criminal record, and then there's a bit of a driver's driving record. And I've now learned that if you live in Colorado, lots of people get tickets for going 4 miles over the speed limit in some rural town someplace. So anyway, and then for education volunteers, the most complicated, I guess, it's not really complicated, but the most complicated part of this is the drug screen. Because we're working with young children and vulnerable adults, they're just looking for basic stuff. And the only problem here is that marijuana is legal in Colorado, but because we have lots of federal funding, it's still considered illegal from the standpoint of our overall organization. So if you are a regular marijuana user, let me know. Otherwise, you just take a sample to the nearest lab to your home, and you go to a lab, you produce a urine sample, and that's pretty much it. Then you're done and you're a volunteer. Sarah, you want to move me on? Okay. Sarah mentioned logistics, which is a complete pain in the ass, but it's a way to keep track of everything we're doing, all of you and all of your information and everything we need. So you use Volgistics to record your activities. When you've done a work assignment, you go on and put your hours in. This is important to us, both to know how many volunteers we have and what their experience and activities are, but it also, this is a matching grant opportunity. So every hour of volunteer time any volunteer puts in, we get $28 to use toward grants. Many of our grants require a match. So it's really important that you record your hours. This is also where you sign up for volunteer. And in a minute, I'll show you what the calendar looks like to sign up, to see the volunteer activities that are available and to sign up. All of this will be given to you in more detail when you finish onboarding and are ready to do work rather than taking time to do it now. So you can forget about all this except for the fact that you're going to have to record your hours. Okay, Sarah, you want to move me to the next slide? So this is the calendar you will see in Logistics, and you can see those little help wanted signs. This is April before it was updated. We've added a number of activities already. The first activity that I know that's available is next week in March. It's on a Saturday. It's a bird hike. We need a second person. You go on, you click on help needed, there are instructions about how to put in your name and other basic information that is needed to get you assigned to that activity, and then you're done. Again, I'll get all of this to you as you get signed up. And Rachel and Hillary, I owe both, but to both of you. Okay. Next slide. All right, I'm not going to go through this, but I am relentless. You might as well record your hours as you go along, because if you don't, you'll be hearing from me at the end. And it's really, really hard to do when it's 3 months later and you can't really remember what days you worked and you can't find it on your calendar. So just do it as you go along. You'll see this slide again in your life. Okay. And that's that cap belongs to the former volunteer coordinator. Okay, and then just what I think are important points about volunteering. And I, as a staff person, have to think about this every time I go out to do any activity to make sure I don't mouth off. We are ambassadors for Bird Conservancy when we're out there, and we leave all of our politics and any other controversial issues at the door. We're out there to encourage people to care about birds and conservation, and to always think about what is best for birds and kids. Lots of people are on social media, and you're free to share your experiences. Take care with photos. We don't post photos of kids. And think before you write. It all lives on for forever on Facebook or Twitter. So our job is just to be ethical and to think about birds and kids, because what we care about is conservation, and we are not going to do that if we're creating antagonism. So and I think that's one more slide. So 3 of my favorite pictures of Sarah and Meredith and our colleague Tyler out with kids, teaching about birds and conservation. And we'll take Sarah, I'll turn it back to you. I'll take any questions or comments or ideas or thoughts.
Yeah, I wanted to say a little bit more about the social media thing, because it is such a hard balance. We want to be really, really careful, but at the same time, we want to showcase all the amazing work we're doing. And for, like, if you're posting on your personal social media, we want people to know how much fun it is to volunteer for Bird Conservancy, or the really amazing work that we're doing. So we do encourage you to post if that's your thing, but like Meredith said, just being mindful of what you are saying. If you post a picture, if there are kids in the photo, that's okay, as long as you can't see their face. So if it's the backs of heads, that's okay, just no faces. On Bird Conservancy's social media, we can post pictures of kiddos' faces because we have those media releases, but on your personal, it's a no-no. So just a little bit more clarification around that. So that's mostly all we have. Whatever questions that you all have, we would love to answer them now.